Good evening, beloved. Let us dedicate a few moments to God and to the power of silence. Not to emotional striving, not to the whipping up of faith by many words, but to the quiet recognition that the presence is here, right now, closer than breath, nearer than hands and feet. This is the temple of the living God. We are not coming to persuade God to be God. We are consenting to God's already present allness. Let the heart be still. Let the mind loosen its grip. In silence, in stillness, in quietness, in confidence, we meet the One. Now then, I must say what seems contrary to the habits of religious life. Voicing the truth is a necessary step, but it is not the healing agency. It prepares, it clears, it points, but the power of God is made manifest in the silence that comes after the stating of truth. Words are the doorway, the presence is the room. The statement aligns thought, the silence seals the treatment. Not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit, by the hush that follows when argument ceases. We have been taught to repeat, to affirm and reaffirm, to plead and replead. We rehearse our prayers as though many repetitions could frighten a problem into retreat. We argue with conditions, negotiate with circumstances, watch for signs, and then say it again, just in case. Do you see the hidden confession in that? It is the subtle admission that there are two powers, God and something else. Fear dresses itself in piety and keeps the tongue busy. But where there are two powers in consciousness, the problem finds a seat. There is no such thing anywhere at any time as an evil force or evil power. Only the belief in two powers lends a shadow its momentary form. Here is the freedom. There is one simple prayer that ends the argument. God is the only power. Say it once. Say it as recognition, not as incantation. Say it as the fact of being, as the acknowledgement that I and the Father are one, that I will never leave you nor forsake you, that the Spirit of God is upon me. In that single recognition, the case is closed, the verdict is rendered, the government is returned to God. Then you must be silent. Do not open the file again. Do not peep to see if the seed has sprouted. Be very still and let God be God. The seal is placed on the treatment through our silence. There, without strain, without a word, the presence acts. Rest in the assurance that no weapon formed shall prosper, because no second power exists to wield it. Rest, and let the silence reveal what the words could only announce. God is the only power. And so it is. Let us look at the root. The only reason suffering seems to have place, voice, or force is that consciousness entertains a belief in two powers, spirit and something supposed to be opposed to spirit. In the moment we accept a second cause, in the instant we admit another will or another law, we enthrone a phantom. We set a shadow in the temple and then tremble before it. But this is the temple of the living God. I and the Father are one. God is the only power. Where can a second power lodge in that oneness? Always remember this. There is no such thing, anywhere, at any time, as an evil force or evil power. Disease is not a power. A germ has no intelligence to invent pain. An organ has no decree to deny life. A diagnosis cannot write a law against God. Fear is not a power. It is a whisper without breath, a suggestion without substance, dissolving in the light that says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Money is not a power. It does not bless, and it does not curse. Supply is not in coins or ledgers, but in the living presence that feeds where there seems to be desert. Time is not a power. It cannot withhold good, hasten evil, age spirit, or delay grace. The life that is God is not measured in minutes. People are not powers. No person is your source, and no person is your obstacle. No hand can take from you what the Father has given, and no refusal can bar what the presence ordains. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, because there is no second power to forge it or to aim it. Do not mistake this for naive optimism. It is fidelity to Genesis. Never deviate from the first chapter. In the beginning, God, only God, and all that God made is good. If there is no divine causation of evil, then evil has no cause. If it has no cause, it has no law. If it has no law, it has no continuity. If it has no continuity, it is not power. Our denial does not fight a reality. It refuses to confer reality. It keeps faith with the nature of God and the nature of creation. Now see how problem-centered prayer betrays us. We take a condition, we name it, we dress it in importance, we repeat it reverently, and then we beg a mighty God to come wrestle it down. In that very maneuver, we have granted the condition personhood, agency, a voice at the table. We argue, and by arguing, we acknowledge an adversary. Beloved, do you see? We have given the shadow its shape. We have made a second power to oppose the one. When the false premise is uncovered, the struggle is over. We are not addressing a rival. We are recognizing an impossibility. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Make this your inner posture. God is the only power. With that recognition, the foundation of the problem dissolves. Then prayer becomes rest, quiet consent, not contest, beholding, not beseeching. In silence, in stillness, in quietness, in confidence, letting God be God. And so it is. Here is the one prayer. Make it your whole treatment and make it brief. God is the only power. There is no other power. Therefore, this has no power over me. And then complete it inwardly. This is the temple of the living God. The presence is here, closer than breath, nearer than hands and feet. This is not pleading with a far-off deity. This is recognition of what is already so. It ends the quarrel in consciousness. It refuses to keep two powers alive by argument or repetition. When you say, God is the only power, you have judged righteous judgment. You have honored the first chapter of Genesis. You have returned government to God. In that instant, the mind ceases its litigation. The case is closed. I and the Father are one. Where a second cause is not entertained, a second effect cannot stand. Speak at once, quietly, without strain. Do not wind yourself up to make it work. Intensity is the confession that fear still governs the room and that you are still trying to win by volume. The Spirit does not need your emphasis. It requires your consent. A whisper that is true is stronger than a shout that is afraid. Say it as a recognition, not as an incantation. God is the only power. There is no other power. Therefore, this has no power over me. This is the temple of the living God. The presence is here, closer than breath, nearer than hands and feet. Understand the mechanics of spirit. Voicing the truth is a doorway. It clears the mental field. it ends debate. But the healing agency is not the syllables. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows the statement of truth. The seal is placed on the treatment through our silence. Not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit, the living presence that acts when we stop acting as if there were two powers to manage. After you have spoken, be very still. Do not rehearse, revise, or improve upon your declaration. Do not turn to look for a sign and then resume talking if you do not see it at once. That is to reopen the case you have just closed. It is to call the witness of fear back to the stand. Instead, rest in the verdict already rendered. God is the only power. I will never leave you nor forsake you. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Let these promises stand not as arguments, but as the atmosphere in which you grow quiet. And now the bridge to our practice is simple. The one prayer has been given. The dispute in consciousness has ended. Let God be God. In silence, in stillness, in quietness, in confidence. Allow the presence, here in its own temple, to reveal itself as the only power. And so it is. Then you must be silent. I say it again, and I say it gently, but I say it with authority. The statement of truth is not the healing agency. It prepares the way. It cleans the atmosphere of mind. It announces God's allness. But the power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows the statement of truth. This is the holy interval where the presence takes the field, because you have stepped out of the ring. Silence is not an absence. It is the moment the presence acts, when you stop trying to act as if there were two powers. Understand what this silence is not. It is not blankness. It is not drifting into sleep. It is not a hypnotic suspension of thought, nor is it a forced squeezing of the mind until nothing moves. It is not effort. It is not the human will straining to produce a spiritual result. Silence is receptivity. Silence is a yielded stillness, quietness, confidence, surrender. It is the heart saying, "Be still and know that I am God." It is the soul consenting to the truth already spoken. God is the only power. I and the Father are one. Here, in this temple, closer than breath, nearer than hands and feet, the Spirit of God is upon me. Now practice. After the declaration has been made, sit without hurry. Let the body loosen. Let the breath become natural. Take a measured pause, long enough for the mind to lay down its tools. Do not set a clock against yourself, but do take time sufficient to stop building outcomes, stop arranging explanations, stop writing timelines. Do not check the soil to see if the seed has split. Do not rehearse what you have already said. Do not compare yesterday's sign with today's stillness. Simply be. Let God be God. If thoughts return, and they will, because the mind is accustomed to its puzzles, do not fight them. To fight is to grant them power. Let them pass as birds crossing an open sky, as ripples on a lake that has depth far beneath the surface. With a light touch, return to one remembrance. God is. Just that. God is the only power. And then let even that soft word fade into listening. Listen without strain, as though you were attending to a presence already speaking within you the assurances you know so well. I will never leave you, nor forsake you. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Yea, though you walk through any shadow, fear no evil, for I am with you. This silence places the seal upon the treatment. It closes the record and bars the door against further argument. In that seal, the mind is prevented from reopening the case. No rehearsing of fear, no summoning of a second power, no return to self-will. The seal holds because it is not your seal. It is the government of God recognized. Where the seal stands, the shadow has no entry, because a second cause has not been admitted. In this holy quiet, the transition is made from statement to realization, from recognition to experience. Not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit. In silence, in stillness, in quietness, in confidence shall be your strength. Abide here long enough to know, not to think, but to know, that the presence is the only activity of your being. Then rise, without fanfare and without peaking, and carry that hush with you. Let God be God. And so it is. Now the gentle question arises in every heart. How long shall I rest in this silence? Measure not by minutes, but by receptivity. The rule is kindness, not compulsion. Begin simply. Give yourself 2 or 3 minutes of deep stillness, unhurried, unmeasured in spirit, even if counted by a clock. Then close the book, rise quietly, and carry the hush with you. As you become accustomed to the air of the sanctuary, grow to 5 minutes, and at times to 10, when grace draws you. Let it be organic, let it be natural. And through the day, return briefly several times, a breath, a minute, a pause that consents again to the government of God. Remember, quality is everything. 1 minute of true receptivity heals more than 30 minutes of mental effort. A single instant of yielded awareness, God is the only power, does what hours of argument cannot. We are not piling up time to impress spirit. We are relaxing into the presence that already fills the temple, closer than breath, nearer than hands and feet. Not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit. You will know you are forcing it if you feel tightness across the forehead, urgency in the chest, bargaining in the mind, or if your eyes keep leaping to the clock. Those are the signals that the human will has crept back to manage 2 powers. When you notice them, do not scold. Soften. Let the breath become natural. Unclench the thought. Release the intent to make something happen. Whisper once as a re-entry line. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. Then be quiet again. Say it once and let the silence seal it. The seal is in the hush. Understand the aim. You are not manufacturing peace. You are consenting to the peace already established. You are not coaxing God to come. You are recognizing God is here. I and the Father are one. This is the temple of the living God. In that recognition, the mind stops arranging outcomes and rests under the government of God. This is prayer, not performance, but presence, not technique, but trust. In silence, in stillness, in quietness, in confidence. If fear intrudes with its familiar case, do not give it a hearing. Do not argue. Do not rehearse. Do not name it. Use your re-entry line once. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. I will never leave you nor forsake you. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. And then return at once to quiet listening. Let the words be the doorway. Let silence be the room. Remain only until the inward atmosphere loosens, until the breath is unforced, and the sense of a benevolent nearness gathers you. That may be a minute. That may be 5. The presence sets the measure. So the rule is gentle. 2 or 3 minutes to begin. In season, 5 to 10. And, as needed, many brief returns that keep consciousness under God's law. Measure by receptivity, not by minutes. Rest, not to accomplish, but to consent. Let God be God. God is the only power. And so it is. When you go quiet, carry with you a few living promises, not as quotations to impress the mind, not as ornaments for memory, but as present tense assurances of the nearness that already is. Hear them as God speaking in you and as you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Let these be heard now, not then, here, not elsewhere. Make them personal, immediate, alive. This is the temple of the living God. I and the Father are one. The Spirit of God is upon me. Understand how these promises function in our practice. They are not cudgels to swing at a condition, not syllables to batter fear into silence. They are anchors that hold consciousness steady long enough for the waters to become clear. They are doorways. You stand before the door. You turn the handle once with a simple remembrance, and then you step through into the quiet. The words steady you. The silence heals you. The statement aligns. The hush acts. Not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that comes after the stating of truth. Keep your cluster small. Rotate a few that have become warm to you and let them serve until you feel the inner atmosphere change. Try these. God is the only power. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. No weapon that is formed against me shall prosper. Speak one of them once and be still. If the mind is not yet at rest, speak a second softly and be still longer. If still there is movement, a third, then stop. Do not chant endlessly. Do not pace your room with many words. Say it once as recognition, and let the silence receive it. Let the promise descend from thought to tone, from tone to felt assurance, from assurance to the wordless knowing that ends the dispute. This is the rhythm. A single remembrance, then quiet. If needed, another remembrance, then deeper quiet. Then no words at all, only listening. You will know it has begun to descend when the breath becomes natural, when the shoulders drop of themselves, when there is a sense, as real as your own heartbeat, of a benevolent nearness that requires nothing of you. In that moment, let even the promises fade. The seal is in the hush. The presence is its own evidence. And mark this well. Promises are not weapons against a foe. They are reminders that there is no foe, only the presence. If God is the only power, what remains to oppose? No disease is a power. No fear is a power. No circumstance is a power. The promise does not arm you for battle. It disarms the belief in two powers and returns you to government under one. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Lo, I am with you. Say it once, then be very still. Let God be God. And so it is. Now we come to the simplicity of demonstration. This is where recognition is allowed to bear fruit without giving a name tag to the shadow. Do not decorate a condition with descriptions. Do not narrate it, weigh it, trace its history, or parade its prospects. Every additional description gives it identity and continuity. Another chair at the table, another voice to argue with. We are not furnishing a courtroom. We are consenting to a temple. This is the temple of the living God. I and the Father are one. God is the only power. How then do we apply this to anything that presents itself? When the body seems to clamor with a sensation, when a relationship tightens, when employment grows uncertain, when accounts look thin, when a decision presses, when headlines speak loudly, each and all are met by the same recognition. We are not handling many problems. We are releasing one false premise. There are not two powers to manage, spirit and something else. There is one. Here is your simple practice, and let it remain gentle. First, acknowledge the temptation. Father, I see the mind reaching for a second power. I feel the impulse to argue, to fix, to fear. That honest seeing removes the mask from the intruder and denies it secrecy. Second, speak the one prayer once. God is the only power. There is no other power. Therefore, this has no power over me. This is the temple of the living God. The presence is here, closer than breath, nearer than hands and feet. Third, be silent. Let the presence interpret itself. Let the power of God be made manifest in the silence that comes after the stating of truth. Let the seal be placed upon the treatment by your quiet. Why is trying to fix so persistent? Because it is the last stronghold of the belief in two powers. The human will prefers management. Spirit requires consent. To fix is to assume an opposing force that needs mastering. To yield is to recognize that government is already divine, already operative, already complete. Be still and know that I am God. Not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit. What follows this holy hush is not noise, but fruit. Peace arrives without argument. Guidance appears as a quiet rightness. You find your feet moving in the appointed path, your words softened, your timing exact. Supply comes as the evidence of order. Doors open, calls return, ideas take on form. Healing shows as the ceasing of a claim's voice. What clamored grows still, what tightened relaxes. You did not name the trouble. You did not sharpen it with attention. You refused it power, declared God's allness once, and let silence do the work. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. For in one power there is no forger and no aim. This is demonstration, not the triumph of a stronger human argument, but the revelation of the presence acting in its own sanctuary. It ends doubt not by debate, but by deed. Peace felt, guidance known, provision seen, health realized. And as this becomes your way, in silence, in stillness, in quietness, in confidence, you will discover that recognition ripens into experience, and experience stands forth as the living proof. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Lo, I am with you. Let God be God, and so it is. Now comes the holy crossing. Recognition of truth makes you a truth student. The demonstration of it makes you a truth practitioner. And between the two there is a bridge. Not more words, not stronger emotion, not a cleverer phrasing, but silence. In silence, in stillness, in quietness, in confidence, the stated truth descends from the mind into the heart, from belief into being. Then the presence, having been acknowledged as the only power, bears witness to itself. That witness is demonstration. It ends doubt, not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit. There is a detour familiar to every earnest soul. We collect teachings. We compare methods. We seek a new wording, a sharper denial, a brighter affirmation, a more ancient phrase. We wander from book to book, from voice to voice, and the one requirement stands gently, patiently, untried. Be still and know that I am God. Do you see? We have arranged a gallery of truths and remained in the hallway. We have learned the hymn and refused the silence that makes it worship. Say the truth once. God is the only power. And then be very still. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that comes after the stating of truth. The seal is placed upon the treatment by our quiet. I and the Father are one is not personal greatness. It is the end of separation. It is the surrender of a little self trying to become spiritual, and the finding of the self that is Spirit's own appearing. This is the temple of the living God. Closer than breath, nearer than hands and feet, I cannot go anywhere to get it, nor can I go anywhere to leave it. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. When this ceases to be a sentence and becomes a state, you will not look outside for help. You will rest within the one who is your life. Then the walk changes. You no longer move through the streets as a vulnerable human seeking protection. You move as the temple, robed in spirit, clad in the armor of light. Fear loses its script. The eyes soften. The step steadies. Conversations become sacraments. Timings align without your management. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. For in one power there is none to forge and none to aim. You are not insulated by will. You are indwelt by God. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. Let this become a discipline of remembrance. The one prayer is not a rescue rope thrown to you only in crisis. It is the way you live, the atmosphere you carry. Morning recognition, brief returns through the day, a quiet sealing at night, each framed by that single declaration and the silence that follows. You are practicing presence, not performance, government, not grapple. As you keep this rhythm, truth passes from lips to life. Silence turns truth from a statement into an experience, and experience becomes the demonstration that ends doubt. God is the only power. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Let God be God. And so it is. Let us set a gentle rule of life, not as a burden, but as the air you choose to breathe. In the morning, before the world speaks, before the hand reaches for light or for news, turn within and make your one recognition. Quietly, without strain, say once, God is the only power. I and the Father are one. This is the temple of the living God, closer than breath, nearer than hands and feet. Then be silent. 1 minute, 2, measured not by a clock, but by the sense that the heart has yielded and the mind has laid down its tools. Let the power of God be made manifest in the silence that comes after the stating of truth. Rise without peaking. Walk into the day robed in this remembrance, not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit. Through the day, make brief returns. In a hallway, in an elevator, at a desk, in a car at a red light. Turn inward a moment. You need not close your eyes. You need not fold your hands. Whisper within once, God is the only power. And then fall into 2 or 3 easy breaths of quiet. No argument, no checking, no second sentence unless grace asks for it. These are not long devotions. They are holy pauses that keep consciousness under God's government. Many small returns steady the ship better than rare dramatic efforts. The seal is in the hush. At night, before sleep, lay the day in God. Do not rehearse the scenes. Release them. Speak once. God is the only power. I will never leave you nor forsake you. No weapon that is formed against me shall prosper. Then be still, and let gratitude, simple, uncounted, rise like warmth. This is the sealing of the day. Refuse to reopen the case. Rest in the presence that keeps watch while you sleep. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Why this rhythm? Because consciousness is trained by what it is fed day after day. Each gentle return dissolves the old reflex that assumes 2 powers. The mind learns a new default. Fear, which once leapt to the center, arrives slower, weaker, less convincing. Peace stands closer to the door. The heart discovers that guidance is natural, supply is order, protection is presence. Not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit, through constancy. And for acute moments, when alarm pounds at the door, do not wrestle. Step aside inwardly. Name nothing. Say once, God is the only power. Then stop. 10 seconds of yielded silence may do what 10 hours of worry never can. Let the presence be felt. Be still and know that I am God. This inner stepping aside is your strongest act, because it is no act at all. It is consent. This is not a dramatic method. It is a simple returning, again and again, to the only power. Morning recognition, brief midday returns, nighttime sealing in quiet gratitude. The one prayer becomes effective as a lived habit, a single recognition, sustained by repeated returns to silence. Walk so, and the atmosphere of your life will preach before your lips do. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. Let God be God. And so it is. Beloved, we have walked a straight path without hurry. We have seen that every problem hangs upon one premise, the belief in 2 powers, and that when that premise is withdrawn, the whole structure has nothing to stand on. We have learned the one prayer that ends the argument. God is the only power. There is no other power. We have honored the way of Spirit, that voicing truth prepares the heart, but the power of God is made manifest in the silence that comes after the stating of truth. We have taken the promises not as decorations, but as living assurances that steady consciousness long enough for silence to do its holy work. And we have made of this not an emergency measure, but a way of life. Morning recognition, gentle returns, nighttime sealing. In this way, what was once practice becomes natural breathing under God's government. Now one final word, and I say it with warm firmness. After you have prayed, Do not keep discussing the problem, neither with your tongue nor with your thoughts. Do not weigh it. Do not measure it. Do not forecast it. Do not explain it. Having placed the case in God's keeping, do not reopen it. The seal is in the hush. Every new question to the shadow invites it back to speak. Every post-mortem examination renews the belief in two powers. Close the record and let it remain closed. Not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit. Let God be God. Let us now be still together. Say once within yourself, with no strain, only recognition. God is the only power. This is the temple of the living God. I and the Father are one. Now do not add to it. Be silent. Quietness. Stillness. Confidence. Let the breath be natural. Let the mind lay down its tools. Listen, not for a sign, but for the presence that is already here, closer than breath, nearer than hands and feet. Be very still and know. Hear as fact, not poetry. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Yea, though you walk through any valley of shadow, fear no evil, for I am with you. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. These are not hopes. They are the government of God declared in you and as you. Rest in them. Let them rest in you. Now go in this quiet. Take one step today as remembrance. Only this. God is the only power. And let the rest be done in silence. Do not reopen the case. Carry the hush with you. Walk as the temple, robed in spirit, under the one law of love. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. Let God be God. And so it is.